His funny, honey, his paws, and set the poo sang time. Song to that don't get a buzzing bee. He climbed, and I began to down that buzzing, and as I wonder like that I know of his bee. Winnie the got up, and as I know it is funny head bee tree, and the only reason for making noise you're a little sad to climb there along to himself. It went like there while he got up, and said, if this something making buzzing you're a buzzing in between himself. Did you get that? Nah, me neither. And that is how I felt growing up learning English. Bye! But no, for real, this is something I think a lot of non-native English speakers can relate to. Nowadays, English has become such a widespread language, it basically being the language of the internet, you can't really avoid it anymore. I believe these days they start teaching kids English when they're like 8 or so. I mean, the earlier the better, honestly. But when little you was growing up, we didn't get proper English classes till high school. Luckily, it didn't take me that long before I started learning English, as I was exposed to it pretty early on in my life. Though I don't really count this next event as my very first exposure, as my 4-year-old brain wasn't even aware of the existence of English at this point. It was back in the first grade of primary school. One day while at school, me and some other girls were chatting about, and this one girl asked, "Hey, what is the worst swear word you guys know? Idiot? Dumbo? Stomkop? Well, I'm not sure what it means, but my mommy told me it's the worst swear word there is. Motherfucker. Huh?" At the time, none of us understood the word, so we kinda just disregarded it, but looking back on it now, it's pretty cute. My first real way of being exposed to the English language, however, was in the form of music, which isn't too surprising, cause, let's admit it, we Dutchies all used to listen to Chips back in the day. Another CD we also owned back then was Aquarium by Aqua. You know, that band that made that one song? Well, 6-year-old you liked that song so much, she tried singing it, despite not knowing a single word of English.
I'm a Barbie girl in the Barbie world. Not the plastic, it's fantastic. You unmask my hair, I like everywhere. Me money natures, alliations.
Now, this was roughly the point where I began familiarizing myself more and more with the English language. And one thing that's very different in English compared to Dutch is the way people pronounce the R and G. Cause the R in Dutch is like a throat noise, like a r noise, and the G is like a noise. Gotta spread that Dutch language before it dies out completely. Prior to learning English, I always used to think everyone in the world spoke Dutch, so when I found out that we had to learn English, I remember asking my mom, "Mom, why do we have to learn English, but English people don't have to learn Dutch?" Because we traded New York City for Suriname back in the 17th century, sweetie. Now, this is a little off topic, but you know how when American companies dub over Japanese anime and the mouth flapping doesn't completely line up? Or video game character dialogue that doesn't completely match the mouths? Here in the Netherlands, we don't know any better. The lip sync never matches, and honestly, when I was younger, I thought that was normal, cause there were no Dutch-produced cartoons on TV, so none of the lip sync ever matched to begin with. Everything was imported from America and then dubbed in Dutch. Which brings me to my next point. Cultural references. Those flew right over my head, cause I didn't know anything about American culture. Hell, I probably picked up on most of it through watching cartoons. So, can you imagine how damn exciting it is when a cartoon actually does mention the Netherlands? Or something that has to do with our country? The amount of hype you feel in that moment just makes you want to shout the national anthem off the frickin' rooftops. So knowing all cartoons were dubbed in the Netherlands, imagine my shock when me and my sister were flipping through the channels one evening and Nickelodeon was broadcasting an episode of SpongeBob that was subtitled. I don't know, it was just so surreal, like, Is this supposed to be in English? Why is it subbed? Is this an error? Is this a lost episode? To this day, I still don't know why they aired that, because I've never seen another subbed SpongeBob episode since then. Like, the reason why it felt so weird to me is because I always associated sub TV series with grown-up content. Because yes, even live-action kids TV shows would be dubbed over. I only really started being able to properly understand English by the time I was like 10 or so. Which is part of the reason why I didn't really grow up with any classic video games that required you to read lots of dialogue, because those never got translated to Dutch. Instead, I mostly grew up on playing Disney CD-ROM games, as those did have Dutch translations. By the time I got to high school, I already knew some English thanks to some prior online interactions, but my English was still rather rough in terms of vocabulary, so the English classes did help me out quite a bit. In the end, though, I still gained most of my experience with the English language thanks to interacting with the online Sonic community, as cringy as that might sound. Cause right off the bat, when I first joined DeviantArt, I noticed everything was in English, meaning you also had to communicate using English. And honestly, talking to so many other artists during that time helped me improve my English so much. Not always for the better, that is. But overall, I'm very glad about the whole experience to this day, as interacting with natives increased my English skills a lot. As of current, I'd say my English is quite decent, though you can clearly hear I'm not a native English speaker in terms of accent. And to be fair, I'd hate to lose that accent, because as fond as I might be of the English language, I'm still a Dutchie at heart. I want to give a special shout out to Snow Comics and Yan Yan for supporting me on Patreon. Thank you guys very much.